G'day guys, welcome back to the English Aussie Game Week 10 Results stream. It has been a crazy week and a very good week so far for myself. So far, 57 points, up to 700k in the world. And the decision to remove Haaland and bring in Salah as captains has gone fantastic. A lot of discussion over the week. Should we do? Should we take out Haaland? Should we bring in various options for all the players this week? I did go with bringing Cole Palmer and Chris Wood for Haaland and Adama Traore. So far that has paid off. Palmer and Wood, 10 points between them. Haaland 2. So unless Adama gets a 9-pointer, I'm struggling. I also probably wouldn't have had. I probably would have had Pedro Porro in the team, so that's worked out for the best. So as discussed during the week, I did think that Haaland would blank this week. It was in my gut that he would blank. And Salah as captain obviously was the correct choice between Salah and Palmer, which, to be honest, I was tossing up either way between Salah and Palmer. I thought that Palmer had a really good chance of scoring big against United. But perhaps with the sacking of Ten Hag, the United guys have really sort of pulled it together and started getting into the new manager bounce, as they say. So yeah, really crazy game week. Good result for a lot of people, I think, this week that did choose to go the route no Haaland and Salah. I do think that game week 11 is going to be slightly more challenging for those of us who have done that. I think Haaland is definitely the best captain for game week 7. And I do think that it's probably going to be difficult, as it was this week, going without him next week. So good luck to anybody who's gone down that route and has tried to go without Haaland this week. I think, and I do think that who's gone without Haaland this week, and I think that he's going to be tough to be without against Brighton, and I do think Brighton are going to come out to play against City, and I think that is going to help them going forwards. I think they are going to need people to come out to play against them rather than sit in that low block with five at the back and a man marker on Haaland. They have really found it difficult to break that down over the last few weeks. However, the positives were De Bruyne was on the bench. Hopefully, he'll be back for City next week. Not so much for me, but hopefully for City he'll be back next week. Walker also made an appearance. As I was saying, I don't think Walker was actually injured. I think there was some personal issues that he was sorting out, which, I mean, you can look into yourself if you want to know what was going on with Kyle Walker. So even though Pep did say that Rico Lewis was the only player that he couldn't bench, he benched him, which classic Pep maneuver that, telling us one thing and then taking us down the other route. I do, however, think Pep has been pretty good with his team updates. To be honest, I think he's been pretty upfront with us on a lot of the injuries when people are going to be back. And he said he obviously wanted to rest Rico Lewis. He just wasn't able to do it at the time. And with Walker declaring himself available to play again, that just gave him the opportunity to do that. So yeah, unfortunate for Lewis owners. I think for myself it worked out okay. Realistically, Porro was first on my bench, who also got 1 point for Spurs. With that 4-1 win for um, Villa. So no real changes would have happened for me. So yeah, not too much of an issue with him coming off the bench right at the end of the game for Man City. Guardiola again with a goal for City, unbelievable. He just seems to be just notching up the points, even though Man City seems to be unable to keep clean sheets at the moment. So that double City defence has really worked well for me over the last few game weeks. They've managed to keep one clean sheet, but otherwise from that, Guardiola scored 3 goals in that period of time. Um, I think Lewis has also picked up an assist in that period as well. So they've been going really well for me this season. And I think for Lewis, like he's at 4.9 million now, and to have a Man City defender that's playing every week at 4.9 million, who else are you going to have at that price that you think is going to provide that sort of output? Obviously, City have not been keeping the clean sheets that we've hoped they've been keeping. Um, but yeah, obviously, they've still performed. They're still one of the top 3 best defenses in the league, and one of the top 3, if not the top team in the league this year. So having those players in your team and nothing to turn your nose up at. Gabriel again started this week. As we said in the team observations, he took part in training. We expected him to play or be in the squad. Obviously, you can never tell with Arteta, but that was the expectation that did come true this week. So we got that one right. Arsenal, unfortunately, conceded again this week. I think a lot of people are sitting there with double Arsenal defense with Raya and Gabriel. Hasn't gone too well for them. And Newcastle did just defended fantastically. Played really well against Arsenal. Actually, there wasn't a lot of chances created, especially from Arsenal. I think their biggest chance was right at the end, where Saka played a cross into the box for Declan Rice, who just managed to head it wide. And that was unlucky, really. He should have scored at the end there, and that would have been probably quite big for some Saka owners, and a big point for Arsenal to have picked up late on and potentially go on to get a winner. At that point, unfortunately, didn't manage to do it. Arsenal get the 1-0 loss. City also losing 2-1 to Bournemouth meant that Liverpool, at home against Brighton, needed to win to be clear top of the league. And it didn't look good for them early on. Brighton started really well. They came out of the gates really fast, and Kadioglu, who we also discussed in team observations, there was a wait and see for Brighton. They said potentially he might be back. Scored a goal very early on, which great finish, really great finish, just ploughed it into the bottom corner. But Brighton just started so well. They were so composed on the ball. They broke through the Liverpool press time and time and time again. It doesn't look quite the same. Their press is just not quite working out the way it used to at Anfield under Klopp. They're not quite winning the ball back as high. And they did struggle, to be honest, against Brighton early on. Brighton were definitely the better team, especially in the first half. Liverpool sort of grew into that game. And after maybe 30-35 minutes, started to have a little bit of more of the ball possession, and I think definitely in the second half, Brighton were just unable to play in the same manner, and Liverpool really put their foot down a little bit. And then obviously Salah with that goal did the business. fantastic finish. Picked up 2 bonus points, and yeah, picked up 9 points in total, which was the joint most in my team this week. So perfect captaincy selection. Obviously still with Mbuemo and Flecken still to play tomorrow. But 57 points and up to 700k in the world. Can't turn your nose up on that result. Also great result for Liverpool. Took them, came back 2-1. Took them clear at the top of the table. Arsenal have got a lot to do now after the results this weekend. Really not good for them. They've not had a particularly good start to the season. They've had a lot of injuries, and I think they're hoping to get their players back as soon as possible. Really, they're currently sitting in 5th place at the moment, with Chelsea ahead of them on goal difference and Villa below them on goal difference. Crazily, maybe we'll go on to it in a second when we come to talk about the main man himself, but Nottingham Forest are currently sitting in 3rd place in the table. Wild. Also, Villa picked up a win against Spurs with Rodgers and Johnson both scoring for my team, so that was a great result. Rodgers scoring early on, just off a corner, just managed to smack one in from 1 yard off the line, just being in the right place at the right time. That was a good result. And then Johnson off a Son, fantastic cross from Son at the back post, knocked it in before Solanke got 2 goals and an assist really late in that Tottenham game. Very fortunate for Solanke owners. One of the goals was fantastic. It was Johnson with an inside pass to Kulusevski, who played another beautiful pass to Solanke, who just chipped it into the corner. I think that was the goal for 2-1. That was like really great Tottenham move. I thought Tottenham were the better side in that game. I think Villa were mostly working in transition moments for a lot of that second half, whereas Tottenham were really on the front foot. Their press was fantastic. They were pressing Villa so high, and Villa was time and time again losing the ball in that press, and struggling really a little bit to play through Tottenham over that period of time. Kept losing the ball, and yeah, it was a well-deserved win from Tottenham. And Ange came out and said, "Yeah, we've got many gears that we can go through in this team," which gave me a good chuckle because, yeah, I thought he did. Nick, too bad did not have Salah this week. Still hoping, yeah, mate. Haaland out was a big call. Salah obviously brought in last week, brought in Palmer this week, who didn't return, but that was more to set myself up for sort of game week 12 going forwards. I did bring in Chris Wood though, Nick, so I'm sure he's been returning for you every week. So that was a good result for me, getting the main man Chris Wood a goal this week. And Mbuemo still to come against Fulham, and yeah, Johnson obviously with the goal. Watkins again blanking this week for Villa. He is someone that at the moment I'm considering taking out of the side soon. I don't think over the next couple of weeks it's required. I don't really see anybody else that I'd love to go into that's going to do much better for me. Obviously, Solanke was the guy to have this week. Nicholas Jackson looks like he's got some good games going forwards, but he also goes away to AFCON at 17. So there are some pros and cons for Nicholas Jackson. You do have to be careful with the fact that he is going away to AFCON, and that could obviously cause some problems for him. Yeah, still hoping for points from Mbuemo and Smith Rowe. Nick, I'm hoping for some points from Mbuemo as well. I always dislike Smith Rowe points from years ago. He always screws me over by scoring points for people that play against me in um, some of the leagues. Watkins, Terrell, Jimenez, or Wissa with the games coming. Yeah, I think those would both be good. Both be good moves. Again, Wissa away at AFCON in 17, so it'd be a sort of short term punt over the next 5-6. Well, not so much short term, but over the next 5-6 game weeks. I love Wissa. I think he just has incredible footballing IQ. The way he plays, he's always getting in those correct positions. Even with Tony, back in the days when Tony was in that Brentford team, Wissa was always scoring late goals for Brentford. He just kept popping up in the right positions at the right time, and he was really doing the business um, for Brentford even back then. So now, with the stats that he's pulling in for Brentford, he's just doing a great job. And we'll see tomorrow if he can pick up some points for them. I'm sure a lot of people will be sitting on that game, hoping he returns for them. Not me though. I will not be hoping that at all. So then obviously Watkins not returning. Then the man himself, Chris Wood, 7 points up front for Forest. Forest up to third place in the table. If you're a Nottingham Forest fan, screenshot that Premier League table right now. Nottingham Forest 10 games, 5 wins, 4 losses, 4 draws, 1 loss, 19 points, and third in the table. I might even give you Nottingham Forest guys a chance to screenshot that table now. There it is. Just amazing really for Forest. Chelsea in fourth there on 18. They've started the season really well. I think they'll be a bit disappointed with a 1-1 draw at Man United today. Who obviously not started the season well. Ten Hag getting sacked and Amorim coming in from next week. I am expecting a new manager bounce from United. I also am expecting them to play slightly better football and be have slightly more goal threat, I think I would say. It'll be interesting to see if Roode stays on at United and keeps helping out, or if Amorim brings in his own coaching staff. I think it's important to have some of those old United heads at the club. Probably also stops Gary Neville giving him crap in the interviews repeatedly. If we flick over then to game week, you can see here currently on FPL site it's 768 on the official site, 768 in the world. But if you run over to the live FPL live rank, currently 720k in the world. Again, really good rank result. I thought I'd just go through some of the interesting things, and maybe I'll make it top 1 mil so you guys can see. This is FPL Gameweek, so it's a free website that you can use to see your live team in play, and you can get to see a lot of really interesting stats in here. I went through it in my 7 websites to use as an FPL manager, 7 free websites to use an FPL manager. While I am on this website, I can't quite see the chat, so apologies if you have asked some questions in the chat. I will get back to you very shortly. But you can see here sort of the small gap between the ranks. If you look on the left-hand side here, you can see obviously 158 points to first place is a long way away, but those guys have probably used triple captain, wildcard, bench boost, free hits, etc. But what is interesting is only 27 points away from 200k in the world, 14 from 400k, 5 points from 600k, and then only 2 points above 800k and 8 points above 1 million in the world. So the ranks are really tight around that sort of, I mean, really up to probably like a 1.5 million. The ranks are really tight, and one good game week or a good decision with your team can move you from, like it did for me this game week, from 1.4 mil in the world to 700k. And I was thinking that, like, I thought my team was in good place Obviously, this week it was just the decision on Haaland versus no Haaland, and the decision I took was based off Man City really, and was based off the fact that they've had a lot of injuries over the last few weeks. Uh, they don't have that creative talent going forwards. They haven't looked so good without De Bruyne in the side. And teams have sort of come up with a plan of how to play against Haaland, and how to deny him the ball, really, and deny City that space, sort of running through past the back lines and in between the defence when there was four at the back, and Haaland could take one of the centre backs away and allow the other midfielders to drive into that space. Nick, do you think Fernandes is an option now that Ten Hag has gone 3 goals in 2 games, for him, including the cup as well? No, simple option, simple call for me. I think I just don't like Fernandes as a shout. I think the way that he plays in that United team, we'll have to see what happens when Amorim comes in. I think he's a wait and see, because we'll have to see what sort of tactics Amorim employs in the next few game weeks. Personally, I just don't like Fernandes, the role that he plays in that United team. I actually had Fernandes in my team right at the start of game week 1, and I thought, oh, this is a really smart move. He's going to be playing up front for United, which he did in the first couple of games, and I thought that was really going to help me pick up some points on people who weren't seeing how the United team structure from pre-season. And yeah, he just couldn't buy a goal really. It's like Nick Kyrgios when he was serving in tennis, couldn't buy a second serve. Fernandes couldn't buy a goal. Yeah, he's done well in the last couple of game weeks, but again, watching those United games, I don't know if he's been picking up the positions that I'd really like to think that he's going to keep returning going forwards. We'll see. We'll see what Amorim does coming in. I think Diego Dalot is definitely someone that I'm going to be looking at over the next few game weeks. Amorim set up for Sporting. I was looking at some of the tactical setups from Sporting recently, and they like to play 3 at the back with wing backs, guy pushing up forwards. And I think that if the United defence continue to be like reasonably solid, and Dalot and who's left back, Mazraoui, for United start pushing on higher and getting in those more creative positions, and being able to have those assist opportunities, I think there could be some really good shouts going forwards for United. Yeah, so that could be a really interesting one. A couple of other things to discuss going forwards as well. So what's going to happen next week after what's happened so far this week? If we run over to FPL statistics, which again, I think another really good website for you guys to know, free website you can use to check price changes. Everyone is always talking about Fantasy Football Hub, but I personally think there's a lot of free ways to go about being an FPL manager that has a lot of great information out there. So yeah, this is the way to do it if you don't want to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. Here you can see what their estimates are of whether players are going to go up in price or go down in price. It looks like Mo Salah is going to go up again in price tonight, tomorrow morning. I don't know what time it is in the UK, 8 PM. Yeah, tomorrow. I think overnight in the UK. Salah will go up in price. You can see the people who are looking like they will be going up soon. Ait-Nouri for Wolves, who obviously has that insane fixture run. Strand Larsen after his goal. Milenkovic at the back for Nottingham Forest, interesting one at centre back. I would have probably gone for an Aina or a Moreno, but maybe potentially they've already gone up this week. No. Rico Lewis again went up, despite the fact that he came off the bench this week. Bowen rise in price. Jorginho Arita for Brighton also rise in price, and Wood again went up one more to 6.5 million. And actually, that's an interesting talking point, because one of the reasons I went for um, the Haaland switch this game week, yeah, and unfortunately, like I didn't quite have time to give you guys the full information on the deadline stream because I was traveling at the time, and just the delays were crazy, and obviously got in late to the stream. But yeah, I'd looked at Wood and Palmer and bringing them in for Haaland and Adama. And really, like if you look at my team, I previously, I wouldn't have had any money in the bank. So at the moment, I actually played this game week with 3.4 million in the bank. But my plan was probably to go Johnson to Son next game week against Ipswich, which is still under consideration at the moment. But I just also wanted to have the potential to go into Saka, which unfortunately he's gone up now to 10.1 mil. So I would have to make another move when I do want to go to Saka in game week 13, I think it would be. But yeah, I think like my plan is probably still to go into Son. Hold him for a couple of weeks. I think Ipswich and Man City, they've got Son always seems to score against Man City, and then game week 13 is probably when I want to come back into Saka for his fixtures runs, post when they have um, after Nottingham Forest. Like I think Chelsea Forest not the easiest game weeks, even though Saka obviously is the main driving force for Arsenal. And then yeah, I'd like to go into him for West Ham, United, Fulham, Everton, Palace, Ipswich, Brentford, Brighton, that whole fixture run really just doesn't stop being good all the way till 23, and Wolves really, I think he's got some great options to score. So yeah, that's probably my thoughts going forwards, and maybe like 12 I could maybe get a roll transfer in. I think my team looks pretty good for 12. And then yeah, 13 we'll have to think about, because obviously we've got that Liverpool Man City game, and then after that, City's defensive fixtures look quite good again. Like the next 3 game weeks, you can see if I look at Rico Lewis here, Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool. It's not really what I want to see as a guy who's got 2 double City defense. Like I think all of those teams can score against City, especially the way they play. And to be honest, Nottingham Forest, the way they play, with their fast progressive build up play, they're a team that I'm also not keen on seeing um, against 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 Man City. I think they could definitely cause them some problems um, going forwards. So yeah, that was sort of my thought process on the transfer moves that I made this week. I did make them right on the deadline, probably with 15 minutes to go. So now, yeah, as you can see, Wood's obviously gone up by that 0.1 million this week. And Palmer, I expect he'd probably rise at some point in the week. If he'd have scored a goal, he'd have definitely gone up straight away this week. And then you can also see the price drops. So you can see Dingdra, Maniz, Dunk, Calvert-Lewin finally went down. Van der Ven, obviously with the injury. Haaland also went down -1, which would have affected a lot of people when they want to sell him, because now at 15.3, I'd imagine a lot of people had Haaland at 15 right at the beginning of the season. They would only be able to sell him at 15.1. So again, that sort of gained me 0.2 in team value, making that move early, taking Haaland out, bringing Wood in. And if we look at who we think is going to fall soon, Watkins. It's unfortunate for me. He's going to fall down to 9 mil. Wouldn't have made a difference given I got him in at 9 mil as well. So still be able to sell him at 9 mil in the future if it's only one price drop for Watkins. McNeil looking like to drop it in price. Murphy for Newcastle looking to drop in price. And then yeah, anyone interesting on the horizon? Yeah, maybe like Lewis Diaz, Martinelli, Robertson. Martinelli could be interesting as a pick if he drops in price as well, because recently Arsenal, and if you looked at some of Arsenal's heat maps over the game, it was just everything was Martinelli and Saka, and Havertz dropped really deep against Newcastle, and they just didn't really have a main focal point to that attack, and that was one of the reasons why Arsenal didn't create many chances. And I think hopefully with Odegaard coming back into that team, that's going to really help them out, because they do need a little bit of creativity and driving force in the middle. Obviously, at the moment they've got Declan Rice, Marino. I mean, Partey was playing at right back, I think, again, or has been playing at right back. So there's not a huge amount of creativity in that midfield. Trossard was playing AM. Didn't have the best game against Newcastle, to be honest. Trossard, he's been playing really well for Arsenal lately, but I just thought he struggled. Yeah, didn't think he had the best game, to be honest. Guys, if you're in the chat and you do have any questions on transfers and stuff for next week, please let me know. I'm happy to answer your questions. Obviously, being a smaller channel, it makes it a bit easier for me to cover off your questions. So when I am live and streaming, I can make it a lot easier for you guys by answering these questions. Good call on Haaland, Foggy. Yes, thank you, mate. I remember you did not go for Haaland this week. I'm sure that is not the result you wanted, and all Haaland owners are probably scratching their heads thinking what to do for game week 11. My answer to that is keep him in your team. Game week 11 for me is the game week where I made the decision to move Haaland out, thinking game week 10 would benefit me. Game week 11 is going to be a very nerve-wracking game week. I do think that City is suited to play against Brighton. As much as Brighton are suited to play against City from an attacking perspective, I'm very worried about Haaland in that team against Brighton, and I think he really could cause some problems. Yeah, so I would say, mate, keep him in your team. I'm sure he'll come good for you next week. I'm just hoping Son can cover him off. I would be concerned that otherwise we'd be struggling maybe a little bit. Looking ahead towards then game week 11 and going forward, and talking about these sort of captaincy choices and what we're going to do going forwards. I did put together a little sort of captaincy slide for you guys to have a look and see what I think the key captaincy choices are in these upcoming game weeks. Obviously, next week is a difficult one, as you can see on screen, with Chelsea playing Arsenal playing Chelsea, Liverpool up against Villa, and then the main ones being Spurs against Ipswich and Man City against Brighton. Now, obviously, having seen what we saw today with Spurs v Villa, maybe that Mo Salah option against Aston Villa does start to look a little bit more enticing, and that probably has made me think a little bit about maybe not making that switch from Johnson to Son, saving the transfer, rolling it, keeping Johnson in my team, who's also obviously got Ipswich, captaining Salah, and then just giving myself a little bit more manoeuvrability over those weeks from even in like game week 13, where again there's not a lot of good captaincy choices, and I do want to get to Saka. And as you saw, trying to go straight to Saka for me at the moment is not really possible. If I want to move from Johnson, I'd probably have to move out of Brian Mbeumo, which would be tough to do against Leicester in a week where they've got Leicester. sorry, Foggy, you can see what he said. Yeah, keeping him for next week. Yeah, I think good choice. Keep him in there. I'm sure he's going to go well next week. I can't foresee there being really any problems with Haaland next week for against Brian. I do think he's going to have a good game, and I do think that's gonna make all Haaland non-owners very nervous. Seeing him next week against Brian, and if he doesn't score next week, then I mean he's got to score against Tottenham, right? Now he'd probably be a sell for me in 12. At the moment, if I had Haaland, I'd probably be thinking about game week 13. Just depends on who you want to captain again. Like looking at that captaincy options for 12. If you want to sub him out in 12 and go for a Salah Palmer, then obviously get rid of him in 12. If you're not looking to do that and you're looking to captain Haaland and keep holding him through that period, then I would say captain him in 12 as well. I think Tottenham, he has a good chance of scoring against as well. Obviously, those teams that come out and play and attack City, City obviously have a better chance of scoring more goals against. But having said that, like I felt like Bournemouth did a good job of coming out to play, and they caused City a lot of problems. And if you look at the expected goals for Man City in that game, it was super light. Like until Haaland's chance in like 90th minute where he headed it, got it cleared off the line, hit the post, which had me having heart palpitations at the time. Just cheering Bournemouth to clear the ball off the line. Bournemouth just out XG'd City over the whole game. It was really crazy to see that from Man City, who is a team who normally are so dominant on the ball, so dominant of possession, so dominant on the chances, just really struggled to create. And I know we're all saying when De Bruyne comes back, it'll be better. But he's just one guy, and yeah, he's definitely going to help that Man City attack. But I'm worried for City at the moment that they're just teams are sort of working out how to play against them, and I don't think it's just De Bruyne. I actually think it's like having Doku and Grealish out as well, and obviously Savinho with the injury as well now. They're just like their wingers are just not as creative as they were before either. They've got Mateus Nunes and obviously Doku came off the bench, and I thought like when he did come on, City did look a lot better, a lot more creative. So when they do get back sort of Grealish and Doku and De Bruyne, I think after the international break they are going to look a lot better. So I think going without Haaland really until you can go without him over the next few weeks. And I think I'm sort of looking maybe like go without him now until 18, like post when Salah then goes to AFCON. I think after game week 17, that's sort of when I'd look to swap Salah out back into a Haaland, and I'd probably move Watkins on. Probably move Watkins on maybe in a 17, and bring Haaland back in around then. So yeah, I think this week, this year, obviously with having so many premiums, and it then being so well priced by FPL, you can afford and having the 5 transfers, you can afford to switch and sort of target the premiums that you want and make those transfers to target the premiums that you do want. And that is also why that I've gone with sort of my view is obviously to go with the sort of main defenders, and I think that having that sort of confidence in your defense long term that you can just have these guys set in your team, and you don't have to change them around. They're going to play pretty much every week. Makes me feel a lot more confident in my defense that I don't have to make the transfers there, and I can focus those transfers on the main premiums that I want to be transferring around and targeting the good fixtures. Obviously, when Walker comes back, there's a bit more rotation for Lewis and Guardiola. I mean, previously I did have Trent over Porro. Made that change the other week. Probably the only transfer decision that has not gone well for me this year in Touchwood. Shouldn't have said that. In 9-10 game weeks. So I probably should have gone for 8 Nuri instead of Porro. Nick, my plan is to wildcard in 12, overhaul some of the defenders and midfielders. Yeah, I think 12-13 is a really good time for wildcard. There's a bunch of good fixture swings. And in fact, since you said that, I might try and pull up some of the fixture swings we're talking about around that time on the screen for you guys. Yeah, this is sort of my fixture analysis, so to say. I've got like an attacking and defensive one. So maybe if we have a look at this, I sort of did my own fixture difficulty rankings, and I think you can see that a lot of the game weeks sort of start to shift with Brighton and Chelsea from game week 12, starting to get some good fixtures. The Brentford good fixtures coming to an end in 13. The Man United good fixtures coming to an end in 13. And the Fulham good fixtures also coming to an end in 12. And then the other really sort of area that you can see there's swings as well is around that sort of 17, 18 mark, which happens to be around the time where AFCON kicks in. So I think if you are going to wildcard, I would look to target those 12-13 game weeks and then the sort of 17-18 AFCON time where you maybe want to be moving out of a Wissa, a Jackson, a Salah, and moving back into some of the other guys. I think if you're looking to wildcard, did do a wildcard draft the other week. I'd probably say like I wouldn't have too many differences to what I did put in that wildcard draft. Maybe we can go through something and have a think about what the wildcard would be if we were to wildcard in 12. We'll try and help you out, Nick. Maybe we'll keep that on the screen for now and we'll just have a think through what we do. Can have a look at the defensive fixture runs as well, which is obviously roughly the same, but some slight differences. Obviously, Arsenal looking really good from 12. Yeah, I think I'd say like Arsenal defense is probably people if you are in 12 looking to wildcard. Arsenal would be somebody that I'd look to potentially move out of the double City defense that I've got currently and maybe move into a double Arsenal defense. But noting like from 14 onwards, City's defensive fixtures do look nice after they get through this Brighton, Tottenham, Liverpool run. So I don't hate the double City defense going forwards. It just means I just think they might have a little bit more rotation. With Walker obviously declaring himself available again. I also think that I just think Rico Lewis is such a good price point that it's so hard to sort of not have him in your team at 4.9 mil for a Man City defender that plays most weeks. Yeah, it's just tough to sort of have him out of my team. I think obviously in goal I'd have Fabianski as a backup goalie because he might continue to be the number one goalie for West Ham. And then the goalie is probably a discussion whether you want to go for a Raya at Arsenal, whether maybe you even want to go to someone like Pickford, whether you want to go into like a Jose Sarr, or whether you want to go into like a Sells at Nottingham Forest who've been so good defensively. My thoughts are if you wildcard in 12-13, you probably don't want to go for Sells. I think that Nottingham Forest fixture run is not that great until 19. If you are wildcarding a bit later in sort of 18, 19, that's when I'd go for sells and try and bring him into the team. I'd actually say over this sort of period between 12 to 18, 19 even. Raya's probably the best shout if you're wildcarding for that period. If it's for long term, I'd consider also Robert Sanchez of Chelsea. I think Chelsea have some really good fixtures, all the way through to like 22 really. So he could be a long term hold as keeper. And he's probably, if I was wildcarding in 12 for long term, although they do concede goals, it'd probably be a Sanchez and Fabianski would be my two goalies. At the back, I'd probably go into I'd definitely go into Gabriel. I think he's the most likely Arsenal defender to be playing every week and to also get returns. Then it's a question of do I want to continue? Would I want to continue with a City double up or not? I'd probably rather double up Arsenal. So it's just hard because Guardiola's obviously been great, and I just really love him as an asset. He's been scoring goals and stuff, and obviously being very aggressive. And Rico Lewis is just such a great price point. Really difficult to come out of that. Let's have a look at some of the Arsenal defense. Maybe we'll flick over now to show what we're looking at. So Sanchez and Fabianski in goal, Gabriel. I think just a 4 million bench fodder. Doesn't matter who you go for. I think Vandenberg, Faze, some of the Southampton guys, all of those fine picks. I've just got Faze in there because I already had him in there before. But yeah, any of the 4 million defenders I think is fine. And then this sort of Guardiola Lewis spot. Would you go for any of these Arsenal defenders? So I know Zinchenko came off the bench. Timber's been getting forwards quite a lot. Yeah, I think just Calafiori being injured is a bit of a shame for me because he's probably someone I would have looked to, but I just think there's not enough certainty in that defence for Arsenal for me to go for one of them. It would really have to be. Maybe the other option is if you are going to do that. Here's your two options. I think you either go Raya in goal, and then you come instead to like Gusto. And he's been playing super high down the wing for Chelsea. I know only played 45 minutes against United, but I think that'd probably be the one I'd look for, like Gusto, Reece James. He's a bit more expensive and also been a bit out of the team recently. But yeah, I'd probably say like a Gusto or a Reece James. Maybe you can go that way around. But again, you're going to have those same headaches of are they going to play each week? Same way you have for Rico Lewis. And I just think that Man City A is the better team. And B, like just defensively, I think they'll get better. They'll realise they can't score as many goals and they have to be a little bit more solid. Probably Pep will make some changes. So I think that's probably what I'd end up with in the back four. And then midfield, maybe we just get rid of everyone and think about it. Midfield, maybe let's flick back to our fixture swing, have a look at what we're looking at. For wildcard, if I was wildcard, obviously that Brighton Chelsea fixture swing is really nice. Newcastle will also have some really nice fixtures going forwards. So 17. Liverpool's fixture run obviously is a little bit later. Liverpool City, you see them from like 17, 18. But obviously Salah's been in great form. So I'd obviously definitely have Cole Palmer in there. I think Brentford's fixture runs do start to turn a little bit from 14 onwards. But I do still think Mbuemo is nice. I think if you are to go outside of him, you could consider like an Anthony Gordon. I think Newcastle have got a nice little fixture run over that period of time. West Ham, Palace, Liverpool, Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich. And even onwards past that, Villa, Man United, Tottenham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton. I'd say like there's still goals in those games, like Villa, Man United, Tottenham. You could still score goals against those guys. So yeah, I think like maybe we come out of Mbuemo at that point and go for like an Anthony Gordon in there. I think I'd keep Salah going forwards over the next few weeks. And I'd probably also try and get Saka in there. I think like I said, I think that 3 premium midfield is what I'd be looking at to move towards in the future. I obviously think that being without Haaland is the way to go over excluding next week. And then that other midfield spot, let's have a think about it. Maybe we go into the strikers. Up front, you've obviously got Wolves' good game week. I'm sure people are talking about Cunha and Strand Larson. Personally, can't stand it. I think Wolves are a terrible team. I know they just don't feel like that's the way to go, but I might be proved wrong. I know they keep returning, so I'd probably go with a Welbeck or a João Pedro because Brighton have those excellent fixture runs. I love Chris Wood, so I'm going to keep him in there because he's just been doing the business. And then we got 13.6 million. I think you always can do with one fodder, so I'm just going to keep Jefferson in there. But any 4.5 million striker is probably fine. And that's still leaving us with 9 mil. So I mean, really, we could go the other way and we could have another striker. Like we could have a Nico Jackson, perhaps. Because who else do I want in the midfield? I don't know. I think Jackson, like maybe that's the shout. You go double Chelsea, and you got 5.7 left for that midfield. Who let's flick back over to the team. So that's what we're looking like at the moment. And then I don't like to just spend all the money for no reason. Like I think if you're not going to spend your and actually that's a good point. Is like my team value. If we have a look at what my team value is. Maybe it's a little bit higher than some other people's. So let's have a look. What have I got? 102.6. Yeah. What would this value be? Because I think like my thoughts are I'd probably go with the final player. Probably go with like a sorry, wrong screen. Yeah, I'd probably go with like a Tyler Dibbling or someone, just a bit of fodder that's still playing. Winks maybe. Winks or a Dibbling. Winks with 2 assists in the last couple of games. What are the better fixtures, Southampton or Leicester? Over that run of games, probably Leicester. So maybe we just go with Harry Winks. 0.1 mil cheaper as well. I think that's what I'd go for as a wild card on 12, Nick. Yeah, I do like look at that team. It's probably different, very different to a lot of people's teams. Double up on Chelsea, Palmer and Jackson, and then I think like the things from that team to think about going forwards. Obviously, you're going to lose Jackson, Salah, Eight Nuri, all over AFCON in 17. So from 12 to 17, you've obviously got to think about what are you going to do. And I think like the easy option is when it does come, and we'll flick back maybe to, I know we'll leave this on screen, but when it does come to 17, that's maybe the chance where you come out of Jackson and Salah, you get Haaland in there, and then you move. So say we came out of Jackson, and like we obviously got with Jackson in, how much do we still have in the bank? 1.2. So yeah, I think this is like 101 million team. So affordable for I think a lot of people. So I think if we come saying that 17, and when they all leave AFCON, you come out of Jackson, you go back into Haaland, you come out of Salah, you got 6.4 mil. Like that's not bad. You can deal with Eight Nuri easily at a latter date because you could probably play 3-4-3, leave him out for a week if you did only have 2 transfers at that point. But then yeah, you got 6.4 million at that point where you could go for maybe a Brennan Johnson or someone who we got in the midfield, or a Garnacho, or I'm sure someone in that mid-price midfield will appear as a good option at that point in time. Garnacho, Mitoma. Yeah, a few options. You go for a time where you just go for this bloke, old Rodgers. Just tuck in there. There's a staple diet of Rodgers. Gotta love it. And then yeah, you can end up moving like an Eight Nuri into somebody like even a Timber or someone, maybe like or anybody really you go for. Let's try us midfielders. Yeah, maybe like a Timber or a Calafiori. Go big at the back with still a nice midfield and Haaland up front. Like that I think that's the way to go for I just know around December City usually has to switch up and probably become the juggernaut they are. Probably invest in City again around that mark. Yeah, and I think that works. That's sort of the timing that you want to go for. If we look at game week 17, I think that's probably over that Christmas period. That's when AFCON starts, December 21st. And yeah, I know that City in the new year are just incredible. And I can see it happening too. I can see De Bruyne coming back. I can see Walker coming back. I can see Doku and Grealish coming back after that international break, and then getting into form. Obviously, Foden's been recently like just getting back into form a little bit. So yeah, I can definitely see City, especially with that good fixture run from. If you look here, that good fixture run from 18, going forwards for 5 weeks, I can see them really getting into that sort of juggernaut form over those few weeks. Yep. So I think that's probably where I'd go. Might even keep that for myself, Nick, because I think that's an interesting wildcard sort of squad. Put Jackson back in there. Who did we have here? Ain't Nuri. Yeah, nice. I think that's a good wildcard team for 12. That's probably where I'd go. Screenshot that for myself. I'll look back on that. Yeah, guys. So I think that's probably what we do for wildcard. I like that as a team. Cool. Right, a few other things that I wanted to go through with you guys. Since you're tuning in at this time, maybe we just chat through some of the top 1,000 managers and their ownerships. I'll probably put out potentially a video on this later in the week, or maybe I'll just release a couple of shorts just to show it. But yeah, you can see what their transfers have been, what their strategy is over the next few game weeks for those, basically for those top 1,000 managers in the history of FPL. I think at the moment they're probably on average not doing so well this year, and we'll talk about what I think like some of their mistakes have been, and where I would be different from them going forwards. Yeah, so I think at the moment you can see at the in goal, Flecken, Fabianski, and Raya are the big movers over this game week. Flecken 2%, Raya up 1%, Fabianski up 1%. I think this is like the goalkeeper is not really big at the moment. Obviously, like people are not making goalkeeper transfers. The small amount of people that are probably wild carding or have the luxury to be making a goalkeeper transfer. Obviously, bringing Fabianski into the team, given he's been starting as a 4 million goalkeeper. Raya probably for Arsenal's really good fixture runs from 12, and then moving Flecken out is probably people on wildcard or just fed up with Bournemouth not being able to keep any clean sheets. Yeah, I think not too much to talk about in the goalkeeper section. If you're not on wildcard, there's not going to be a lot of movement. And you can just see the most of them owning Flecken, Valdemarson, Raya, Fabianski anyway at the moment. Which I think is what most people have discussed. I think the interesting thing in here you can see for Sanchez, overall people have 11.6% own Sanchez. I actually think the rest of the population that are not the top 1,000, as I was talking about in that wildcard, probably got that a little bit more right. And Sanchez going forwards could be a good pick. And I almost did go Sanchez at the beginning of the year, so unfortunate not to have gone for him, as I'm still seeing Flecken at the moment. Moving on to defenders, this is where it gets quite interesting. So you can see the big overall changes. Aït-Nouri up 8%, Guardiola down 4%, Trent up 9%, Robertson down 6%. I think that's quite interesting just to see even like how the transfers they're moving. People are actually moving into Trent. I think that's a mistake. I wouldn't be going into Trent as a defender. In fact, if anything, I was actually going out of Trent over the last couple of weeks. I do think Liverpool are probably the best defense out of those top three teams this year. They're playing a different style under Slot and is making them more defensively solid and also a bit less attacking fluidity. Their press has not been quite as good either. However, the Arsenal fixture run just looks so much better from 12 that I think I'd rather be sitting in like a Gabriel or a Saliba than a Trent. I wouldn't, and I think like also Aït-Nouri in that Wolves fixture run, the 8%, I'd definitely be going into that. I think that makes sense for me for the top 1,000. I think they've got that one right. Outside of that, people obviously moving out of Robertson. I think that's likely like a Robertson to Aït-Nouri transfer that's going on to sort of get some money to go into the midfield. Also potentially the fact that Tsimikas is sort of rotating with Robertson at the moment in that Liverpool team, and he's just not got those consistent minutes. So I think that's a good transfer. The top 1,000 be making makes sense. Guardiola down 4% doesn't make sense to me, and obviously like that was a mistake from them this week with Guardiola scoring again. I think that's a poor move. I think Guardiola's really well priced at 6 mil. I mean, I think 6.2 mil there. but in that City defence, playing at fullback every week, and basically sitting outside the box or in the box consistently. Yeah, I think he's just must-have in your team. In any wild card or any team, I would say Guardiola's must-have in the team at this moment in time. And I do think in a few game weeks' time, when City's fixtures get a little bit better from 14 after that Liverpool game, you're going to want to have him in there. Other call-outs to make is Pedro Porro much more highly owned by the Elite 1000 than overall. I don't think that's the correct thing. I think I also went for Pedro Porro based off probably more of the way I see Spurs playing, and the positions that he gets into. But yeah, they just haven't been able to produce those sort of cutting edge balls when the teams are setting up those low defensive blocks against them. And even though Pedro Porro has been delivering a lot of balls and getting really far forwards, he just hasn't really been able to create clear cut opportunities for Spurs. The fact that they're not good at keeping clean sheets, I just don't think. Yeah, I regret my choice to go for him over Aït-Nouri. I'd probably rather go for Aït-Nouri for that attacking potential. So yeah, I think top 1,000 managers got that one wrong. Saliba also 23% owned. You can see from our regular FPL managers, whereas 3% from the Elite 1000. Do think they've got that one right. Unless you're in a double up in the Arsenal defence, I think Gabriel's the better option to go for over a Saliba. Yeah, I don't think he's got a lot of attacking threat. And I think if you're having two Arsenal centre backs, it's probably a bit much, especially considering the nervousness you've probably had around them over the last couple of game weeks, not keeping clean sheets. I think that's probably the main stuff for defence. No real other big talking points there. Midfielders, been some huge swings in the midfielders recently. Eze minus 30% transfers out from the top 1,000. Rodgers minus 8%. Salah plus 59%. And Semenyo minus 15%. So obviously the Eze is out because of the injury. He's going to be out until after the international break. I am sorry for Eze owners. He has been the ultimate point dodger this season, and my brother, being a Palace fan, will, I'm sure, be definitely on board with that. I'm sure he's very upset with that performance from Eze now, and the injury was poor timing. He seemed to be getting into a little bit of form, into some better positions. Yeah, just obviously disappointing that he's got that injury, especially with Palace coming up to probably a couple of fixtures where Eze could have done well in, Fulham and Villa. I think he could have gone well in a couple of those fixtures. Rodgers, people moving out of Rodgers as well at the moment, minus 8% coming out of Rodgers. Yeah, I'm not sure why people will be going for that one. Obviously, they will have regretted it this week, given he got the goal. I think he's just a good price point. Like I can't see myself really ever moving out of Rodgers. I don't. There's no one around that mark that I really want to have in my team. I know there's a Buonanotte, and the Dharma Traore maybe, but I don't think anyone else. Emil Smith Rowe now, he's Rodgers up at 5.4, but I think I got Rodgers in at like a 5.1, 5.2, and I just think he's attacking midfield, playing every week for Villa, Champions League team. I know they've not been playing incredible in the league post those Champions League games, but I think he's too good to not have in the team at that price point. Unless you're totally restructuring your team, which maybe people are now. They're coming out of Haaland. Maybe they're trying to go for more money in that midfield, but I still think I would keep Rodgers and spend the money elsewhere. Salah, 59% in. Wow. that's just people seeing that Mo Salah has been in great form for Liverpool. I've got to be honest. When I watch the Liverpool games, it's not the same. Like, not the same as last year where he was just. You always thought he was going to score in every game. I'd almost say that I don't think he's going to score in a lot of the games this year, and his finishing's been far better than it has been in previous seasons, and that's the reason that he's been pulling in these points. Um, I think Salah's been super clinical, which I don't say very often because I think it takes him 3 shots to score um, every week. So, although I think Salah is obviously a great option and Liverpool's focal point in the attack, um, I would say that he's not like a be all and end all. If you don't have him, I wouldn't like tear apart your team to bring him in. I think Cole Palmer is someone I'd much rather have now, like past after this Brighton game, and like maybe after this Southampton game. I would say Cole Palmer is a much better asset than Salah over the weeks from 13 to 17 when he goes away for AFCON. So obviously, like if you don't have Salah now, like it's going to be short term for you. You're going to go from 11 till 16, and then he goes away and 17 AFCON starts. Yeah, 17 AFCON starts. So um, yeah, I would say I agree with their transferring of him in. But yeah, obviously, like if you don't have the resources to do that, like don't worry about it. I'd bring Palmer in if you've got Palmer in your team. I think you're okay going forwards, and it'll just be that game v Southampton of whether Salah's gonna smash it. Palmer's got Leicester that week as well, so the captaincy choice is going to be um, intriguing as to which you'd go for. Semenyo down 15%. Um, yeah, I think also um, one of those ones where they'll probably be kicking themselves after his goal against City this week. And a really sort of nice run of fixtures from Semenyo in the next three: Brentford, Brighton, Wolves. If you were selling Semenyo, it's probably because they're coming out of Haaland and they're going to like a cheaper fender and fender, cheap forward, and a more like maybe a Palmer or a Salah or a Saka in midfield. Otherwise, I'd say why sell Semenyo? I think he's been going well and got a good feature run. Some of the other stuff to talk about in the midfield, obviously, Cole Palmer super high ownership, Saka not so high ownership, but you can see that his ownership around normal FPL managers 25% rather than the top 1,000 only 20%. Palmer the other way around at 70% versus 56% for us normal managers. And then obviously the crazy stat of the top 1,000, 99.6% of them all have Brian and Buemo. What a crazy stat that is. So if he blanks this week, that's another L for the top 1,000 managers this year. And I do think like people are saying they're unlucky and stuff, but I don't see it as that. I see like this year, I think if you have good footballing knowledge, you're more likely to be doing well. In previous years, you can look at the stats at the price points, um, and it's a lot easier to make decisions because historically, like the templates have been quite hard to break just because FPL don't price their assets as well. The fact that this year FPL price their assets so much better, it's meant that you've actually got to have a bit of tactical and footballing knowledge to be able to be doing well in FPL. You can't just move towards the players that fit the template. The fact that there's options to go for and things to think through, that's making FPL a lot more interesting this year. And I think the people that tactically are astute and understand the game and watch football are going to do a lot better this year. I do think obviously these managers are not going to be down for long. That like the statistical side of the game is obviously important, and going forwards, like it's definitely hand in hand goes with the tactical side of the game as to who you can select in game weeks. And you need to look at that going forward, especially that fixtures and form but it's not all just based on like, oh, what XG is people pulling in. That people like to make you think. I think you got to think about the different variables that are going on, how the teams like to set up, how other teams are seeing those teams in the league. For example, how teams have started defending against Man City lately, how Liverpool are playing under Slot rather than how they are as Klopp. You know, why that means Alexander-Arnold isn't as good an option, why that means Salah's not been creating as many chances, which he's obviously countered by finishing exceptionally well. You've got to be able to see these different things and understand football a little bit better, which I think that's probably a good thing for a lot of us sort of more average FPL managers where you know, we're footballing fans, we watch a lot of football, we understand football, and you know, you probably have a lot of knowledge about your own teams that you support as well, and that's going to come in handy this year. So, yeah, I think that's really an interesting thought going forwards. Is that I think it will be a lot closer this year, just because it's not just about following a template and those statistics. You actually have to have a lot of knowledge this year, which has been very beneficial for myself and probably the one other guy that I think knows a lot. I don't know how he's done this week. I'm probably have a look at his channel. Is John Batra. Sorry if I butchered that name, John. But yeah, I think he's a really good FPL content creator who has really good tactical thoughts on the game as well. Who I like to watch for his insights. So check out his channel as well. After you subscribe to mine and like the video. Yeah, moving on to the forwards up front, we've got crazy stat, which obviously disappointing for me this week and probably for us average managers, of Solanke with 75% ownership in the top 1,000 managers who returned this week with 2 goals and an assist. I think for 15, 16 points roughly. He's been transferred out by 4% of managers, top 4 movements this game week. Haaland out by 55% of the managers have moved Haaland out of their team this week. And obviously you're seeing 72% from us normal owners. I'm actually surprised to see so many people have moved on from Haaland this early. I think it was really a 50-50 call. And probably next week you're going to see that when City play against Brighton, you are going to see that it's really a 50-50 call as to whether that was the correct decision or not. And then you'll know. I think after next week, you'll know whether that was the right decision you made or not. For now, like people like me, we're sitting pretty, thinking, yeah, that was definitely the right decision. Next week, let's see what happens. And then the other two sort of budget forwards to talk about, Cunha, 22% increase brought in by the top 1,000, and Raul Jimenez, 32% increase. I would say he's looked great, Raul Jimenez, for Fulham. He's really been the focal point of their attack. I think Fulham have utilised him perfectly, and they do have a couple of good fixtures, but I think now's not really the time to be jumping on him. I think if you were going to jump on Raul Jimenez, you should have done it already. I think Fulham's fixture run actually turns a bit sour from 13. They've got Tottenham, Brighton, Arsenal, Liverpool over that 4-week fixture period, Southampton, and then Chelsea. So if you're going to go for Fulham guys, I probably would have gone for them from a couple of weeks ago or from like game week 19, 20 onwards, where their fixture run gets a little bit better with Bournemouth, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester. So yeah, I think that's the wrong time to be jumping on Jimenez personally. I would go for Chris Wood because I think if you're going to go for somebody, Chris Wood's just been consistently scoring. Even though their fixture is not amazing over the next 4, Newcastle, Arsenal, Ipswich, Man City. After that, they've got some much better fixtures, and I think Chris Wood's been scoring just so consistently, and Forest's team is so set up for that, and Forest are obviously third in the league at the moment. So, yeah, I think he would have been the way that I'd have gone, for sure. I would have gone to Chris Wood up top. And then yeah, obviously, from Wolves, I don't, there's no real problem with Cunha as an attacking asset for me. I think it would be a good option going forwards, given um, the Wolves fixture run. However, I just don't think Wolves are a fantastic side. So my views are probably avoid Cunha and a Strand Larson. Although if I was going to go for a cheap person, I would probably go for a Strand Larson over a Cunha. Uh, I just think it's worth not using all of that money and using it elsewhere, most likely in the midfield. Some other points for the forward line. You can see people starting to move into João Pedro a little bit, 1%, Isak 3% when Newcastle's good fixtures, and some guys going into Darwin Núñez, who I think obviously with Jota out for the next couple of game weeks is a bit of a punt. And if you are punting over the next couple of weeks with an intention to play a later wild card, then that sort of makes a little bit of sense to me. Otherwise, yeah, I think look, Darwin's great value, but I think once Jota comes back, he's going to get that place back in the Liverpool side. And you'll see by some of the player FPL, the Premier League player FPL team reviews that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. Check them out on my channel if you haven't. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold's Liverpool team and Mo Salah's Liverpool team. Both of them had Diego Jota in there. Or Trent definitely had Diego Jota. I think both of them had Diego Jota in there. I think they'd subbed him out once he got injured. But for that whole period, even for the game he was started on the bench, they kept him in that team, which I think was an insight into him being the number one guy for slot in this team as a forward, which makes me think that once Jota comes back, he'll come into that starting lineup over Darwin again. Other call outs is maybe just like the Havertz and Watkins ownership and Welbeck, really, who I think that people have missed out on if you haven't gone for Welbeck, and if you don't go for Welbeck going forwards, because I think Brighton's fixture run is sensational from 12 onwards. I really think that's a misstep. I would definitely look to move into Welbeck if you can going forwards. I think it's really key for that sort of wild card team to go in there. I think the Brighton fixture run's really good, and obviously, like, you could look for João Pedro if he comes back into the team and starts looking great. But yeah, my devil's advocate to you would be, why not Welbeck? He's been playing so well. No reason to not go for him over that period of time. So yeah, I think that sort of covers our top 1,000 ownership as well. It's good to sort of for those of you that tuned into the stream to go through sort of results, talking points, and future. You've managed to see wildcard plans, top 1,000 team ownerships, discussion on this game week and future game weeks, and captaincy plans going forward. So I think it's been a really good stream. We've covered a lot of stuff on this stream so far. And we've still got one game to go tomorrow. So hopefully Mbuemo and Flecken deliver for me and I keep climbing the ranks. At the moment, sitting at 700k towards the back end of this game week 10. And yeah, hopefully a little more of a climb tomorrow. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Really help the channel grow. Been putting in a lot of work to try and get some good content out for you guys. At the moment, it is just getting to about 7 a.m. in Japan, where I'm streaming from today from the hotel room. So sorry for the quality of the video. But yeah, been up since 5:30 here streaming for you guys. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Once again, please like and subscribe to the channel and follow for some good content that'll be coming out over the next few weeks. I'll try and give you guys the best insights into sort of the tactical aspects of football as well as the statistical aspects, and some of the strategy that I think is important for FPL going forwards. In the meantime, guys, have a great week, and good luck tomorrow with that final game. Hope you will get yourself a green arrow, and have a fantastic week. Thanks a lot, guys.